All right. Hey, everyone. I've got Jack Hishmeh here, and he is from Northland Christian Church in Topeka, Kansas. And Jack, great to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks, John.
Yeah. We're going to dive into your story a little bit and just kind of talk about, what sort of things drew you to the Exceptional Every Sunday coaching group. And then, and you're early in your journey with that. But it's something we still like to dive in and go, okay, what sort of things, kind of progress have you made, both to document your story and just to encourage other leaders too. So one of the first things I want to do is just hear about you. Tell us about, you, your family. Tell us a little bit about your church and your team. That'd be great.
Yeah, great. So I am based here in Topeka, Kansas at a church called Northland Christian Church. And I've been here for almost 6 years. I've been in this position kind of as the worship leader for about 3 years, but it's been a journey. I mean, this church has seen some ups and downs, and we've navigated a lot of different challenges, and a lot of those had to do with the worship. And so I feel like I've kind of been tested by fire. And so the last 5 years have not been easy, but one of the things that really brought me to reach out to worship team coach and just getting some coaching was just my lack of confidence in this field. I knew how to play the chords. I memorized the chords on Sunday. I was able to lead my team and felt like I was doing a decent job, but I just had zero confidence in my leadership. It was to the point where I couldn't have a team gathering without just completely doubting my plan. I had it all planned out. I had my system in place, and I even had my little workshop planned out. And then half my team would show up, which was a red flag to me. And then my confidence would, in result, would just go off the rails. And I think my team could probably see through that. Now it was pretty. It was something that I wanted to take seriously and wanted to get some help in that area. And a lot of it, I just felt like my systems were not really refined. I was doing a lot of things that seemed like they would work, but I never really actually reached out to other worship leaders. And I just kind of Google searched it and was like, this could be a great opportunity for me to grow in my craft and also just grow as a leader. And I think that's probably what I've gained the most of, is how to implement change, but also what are the pre-steps that need to happen before change even takes place, and building trust as a leader, and even just talking through with you and even our coaching group, some of the challenges I've faced at Northland. About 2 years ago, right as COVID was taking place, not great timing, but our church moved from having 2 styles of worship to moving just to contemporary worship. And we kind of had a split in our church. And that was really hard because a lot of people took that out on me as the worship leader when I had nothing to do with that change. While I might have made the same decision, I didn't like how the decision was made. And so this was just a lot of pressure was placed on me as the leader. And I got some flack because of it, and I was just doing my job. And so that's just one example of the things that I've had to deal with. And this group has been just really a bouncing board off of ideas. And also when I get to a roadblock or a challenge, it's been a great place to kind of ponder the options, and get some insights, So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So I want to dig into a lot of what you said there, but just a few things for context. First, how old are you?
I'm 25 right now. 25. So okay. Yeah, I've been doing worship. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I've been doing worship and leading worship for a little under probably not 8 or 9 years. And so this is, I mean, it still feels new to me just because I'm like, haven't been able to kind of be under someone's wing. It was just pretty quickly I was thrown into like leading a church. And so,
yeah. And so, and then that split and all the issues. How old were you then when that went?
I was 23. Yeah, I was 23. I mean, so
that is, I mean, that's rough for 30, 40-year-olds to go through, but that was a rough thing to go through right away when you're first starting off. So
it was.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then it's always good to know too, like the just like the attendance of your church, so people kind of have an idea of
So my church right now is about 400 on an average Sunday, and so that's right now. I mean, it's definitely had its ups and downs, and I think that in its peak or whatever you want to call it, I wouldn't call it its prime because I don't think it was the healthiest church then, but it was at roughly 1,200 at one point. Okay. So so
you've got some of the DNA of a larger church. But, now a more medium size.
And the facilities. We have a big building right now. That's
a blessing and a curse, right?
Right. Yeah, for real.
And what's just curiosity too, since this is the world we live in, are you guys back up to your pre-COVID numbers?
We are not. No. And I think it'll take a little while. I mean, with that change taking place, like I mentioned earlier, with the two services going to one style, that happening during COVID, I don't know. I mean, it's just not going to be an accurate like number of when it'll be back to normal. I do feel like everyone is acting as normal now. Okay. Like there's no one really lives in the COVID era anymore, at least in North Topeka where we're at. It's more of a rural area if you kind of know the demographics there. So
okay. So. And that's I know, a lot of churches, even if the world around them is kind of back to normal with just pandemic stuff, they a lot of churches have just seen a basic decline of church attendance, and and that's so that I always like to ask that. So cool. So, and then one more thing for context, you've got your first baby coming on the way, correct?
That is right. Yeah, we have our first baby girl on the way. So about 3 weeks away from having our first child. So it's all becoming.
That's imminently, baby. That's anytime. So
no, absolutely. So
especially with the first, so congratulations there. Just great timing there with Easter, so
maybe not as closely planned as maybe we'd hope, but hey, we're extremely grateful though.
We'll start to build that into our next coaching, family planning around the major holidays. So all right, so let's see. I want to dig into a couple of things that you talked about, and that the idea of coming in with like, man, I just didn't have confidence in my leadership, and you just wanted to build that trust. And a part of that you saw, I think wisely, was, hey, the systems that I have. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about some of those systems, like which ones and why
I think
were there?
I was definitely doing, as you mentioned in some of your courses, I was being a weekend manager. I was planning the weekend, but I wasn't thinking long term about what my work throughout the week was going to do in the future of my team, or how I was going to like really build this team that kind of needed almost a renovation, And so one of the things that I was really grateful for when I dived in was I kind of started in December, and I think that might have been the most perfect accident that I've committed in the last few years, because it was like right in January we did the annual planning challenge, where I was literally forced to think about the long term. It wasn't, hey, what are you going to do next week for worship? What's the next 4 songs you're doing this Sunday? It was no, like, what are you going to do in the first, second, third, and fourth quarter of this year? And what's your desired outcome? And that was the best question I needed to answer. And it forced me to think through the systems that I was lacking in, such as like my audition process and my onboarding of how someone might join my team was much more complex than I actually than it appeared to me at face value. Trying to kind of streamline that a little bit has been one of my things that I've been working on this year, and also just planning my team gatherings. I didn't have a great system for how to get people to show up and how to give them a reason to come back to these team gatherings. And so through some of the meetings that we've had together, and even our coaching group as a whole, like I've felt well supported and much more confident in my plan for what those team gatherings look like. And recently, about 4 weeks ago, I had one of the best team gatherings that I've had. It was the best team gathering I've had, and I had about 90% of my team show up, which was like nothing I'd had before. Like I shared, I had 50% or less of my team showing up to gatherings before this, but I think my team notices my confidence coming up, and people are led by a leader who is centered and a leader who is confident. Not overconfident, but confident in where he or she is desiring to go. People see straight through that, and I found that like when I know where I'm going, and I can hope and pray and see forward in what the desire could be, people want to tag along, and I think that's one thing that I'm really grateful for, and I think that's kind of where we're moving forward in, is just like I'm seeing some fruit, and I've been here for 5 years now, going on 6, and I'm gaining some trust that takes a lot of time to be gained. So yeah, this whole course or this whole like coaching process has really guided me in that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I wanted to ask you too, you've seen that confidence, and your team has seen it, which is huge. I think you're right. I mean, people want to follow a confident leader, not arrogant, not, pushy, but you can have a confidence that fits your personality style.
That's right.
And I think that, you're seeing that. So how did you gain that confidence, or what are some things that you did?
Yeah. That's a hard one, because I think when I think back on how that confidence was gained, it does feel kind of like it happened almost overnight. Not like, not literally, but like looking back, it's like I was a whole different worship leader probably 6 months ago than I am now. In my more so in my weekly processes and how I led my team, and I think if I had to pinpoint one thing, it was most likely just like every time I questioned whether something I did would work or not, I didn't have a bouncing board for that. I had my tech director, and some tech directors are great, and mine happens to be my best friend, but he's wired completely differently than me. He's not necessarily a people person. He could be fine living in a home on his own, and I was bouncing relational things off of him because he's kind of in my department, and it wasn't the right thing. It wasn't the right place to bounce ideas off of. And so I think what's really helped my confidence is just knowing that I have a place to really ask questions. And it's not a Facebook group that toxic memes are circulating in, because I'm in those groups too. It's like a formative network of worship leaders, and that's how I would put it. It's formative, and we have fun, but more often than not, we're for each other, and we are heading in a direction. And that's when I really do believe formation and in the leadership aspect and even in the spiritual aspect happens is when we're together and we're moving forward and we're centered. We're confident in the way that God has called us and the way that God has guided in the way that God has wired us and who we are as a person, and we're secure in that. That's when we're able to move forward. So
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So you've seen that confidence. What are some of the outcomes from just having that confidence? I mean, you've already said that, you had 98% people show up. What else?
Yeah. I think on Sunday, like just when I'm leading, I used to have this like, it was just a overwhelming amount of like nerves, and it wasn't like I was stage fright. I wasn't scared to be on stage. It was just I wasn't confident in the work I'd put forth, or even in like I honestly think it kind of boils down to my insecurity in my preparation and even in my systems, and I didn't feel like the Sunday that I could present to people with my team was enough. Mm-hmm. And that was something I personally had to work through. I actually went and sought counseling for that because it was not just in the worship field in my life, in the worship circle of my life. It was in my relationship with my wife. It was in my work ethic, and I just never felt like I was doing enough. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of I didn't feel like I was enough, and I actually went to a Christian counselor, and that was a really pivotal moment in my story and how God is shaping me, is because he kind of reminded me. He goes, now he had a list of verses and had what God has told you that you are a masterpiece. You are created in his image. And you could go down the list. And he said, if God says these things about you, then why don't you believe them? Why don't you trust God's belief in you, and rather than your belief in yourself? If you truly think God's word is authority, then trusting that is more important. And for me as a leader, like when I was able to switch that and believe in God's purpose for me in my life and his identity that he has placed in my heart, it like that changed my position as a leader. And then like that actually happened like last October. And then I kind of came into Worship Team Coach. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of able to build off of that, like sense of like, I know who I am in Christ now, Yeah. And then I kind of got introduced to you, John, and the worship coach group, and my Sunday when going up on the platform when I was leading worship, it was so much less about the work I'd put in. It was so much less about what I looked like on stage. It was much more about just glorifying God. And so, and I just think there's so many sides to that question that I could go into, but that's probably what really changed, is just my motive on Sunday has just not been about me anymore. It's not been about the work I've put in. It's like, I trust my process. I trust that we've rehearsed this enough. Now let's go worship Jesus. Let's give him praise this Sunday, and let's do it with our people and invite them into that. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that's the soul work that you did, with that counselor. That's so huge. One that you just had the foresight to say, hey, this is not good. I need some help with this. Mm-hmm. Get some help with it. And then to be able to be where you are in your mid-20s as a worship leader, you're coming up on the platform with a biblical mindset and a healthy mindset, where a lot of, some worship leaders never get there, but a lot of times it takes them getting into their 30s, even 40s before that, like that whole, either I'm a rock star kind of thing, or I'm just, they just are thinking too much of themselves, not in an arrogant way, but just in a self-conscious way.
Yeah.
And we all have to grow. We all have to in that stuff, but I just want to commend you for that soul work that you did, because that's so huge in moving forward. So
yeah, and I think what you mentioned there is like so true. Like we can be self-centered worship leaders without trying to be rock stars and just our insecurity, like, and I think that there's such a danger for the perfectionists to always be focusing on trying to make it better when you can do that in the preparation process, you can do that in that. But when it comes to Sunday, we have to be confident in the work we put in, and also understand that our identity is to glorify God. That was one of the reasons we were created as an image bearer of God. We're to image God and display His glory. And one of the ways we get to do that is powerfully through music, So yeah.
And that's going to transfer then to your team too, because that's one of the things we teach in our, I think it's the Lead Worshiper 101, 201 course. It's like, hey, you're actually called to be up here, and you've been delegated authority by your church to be on the platform.
That's right. Yeah.
Lead people. And so that helps people to get past that, to either shed the whole rock star performance thing, which is probably fewer people, but then the rest of them, it's more that self-conscious thing. Yeah. Like, oh, I do deserve, I do, belong up here, and I have been called, and I have been given that authority to lead. So that's fantastic. I'd love to dig into where, like, some of the like either the frameworks or different things that you've learned that you've implemented, and how you've seen either changes from that, or how that worked, and even if maybe it didn't work too, we can talk about that too.
Sure.
We want to be real here.
Yeah. One of them that is definitely like something I'm putting to practice now, and I shared a little bit about it earlier, but is my audition process. And I was noticing that no one was onboarding to my team. It was about a year, and where I had no new team members reach out. So I realized something's wrong, or either our process is not clear enough. And so it was a number of things, but I had to kind of restructure our audition process. And so yeah, it wasn't digital before. It was like they had to come to me and receive a packet with our handbook and our application. And who does analog nowadays? And so it was a good switch to kind of, I don't know why I didn't think about that earlier, but it was just kind of, yeah. So besides that, like we moved to a digital application, and I didn't have a pre-audition process. I kind of, depending on the person, I would kind of decide what songs we're going to do at audition. And then I would kind of text them and say, hey, like it's casual, like, but I want you to prepare for this. And that would be about it. And so, one of the frameworks that you've helped me with is we had a audition process, like, workshop that lasted almost half a day, and it was like super helpful for me to develop what a pre-audition process looks like. And so now a new team member here will receive, after they fill out their application, they will receive an email that has all the expectations for every position on our team, and not all of them need to be up to code when it comes to every single person needs to have all of them, but it gives them a sense of what we're looking for. And then depending on that position, there's 3 songs that are in our song cycle that they will audition for. And so if it's a electric guitarist, they're going to be doing "We Praise You." That Bethel lead lick is just one of those that is clear. If they've played electric, they're going to be able to pick up on that pretty quickly and play it. And I have some other lead heavy songs that are on that 3-song list for lead electrics. And then for vocalists, it kind of depends on who they are, but that whole process has really helped me be a little more confident in saying yes or no to someone, because I have done the work in preparing them so that they can prepare. And And then, because what happened is I'd have some people challenge me and say, hey, like, I'm singing this exactly like the recording. And they would be maybe a little overconfident, but they probably had a reason to be frustrated because they didn't know what I was looking for. And so now they know exactly what I'm looking for. And that's just kind of cleared up some of the haze that was there beforehand. And so, I'm thankful for that. And I think the last one I would say is just how I structure my team gatherings is I create a space to have conversation. We usually do it over a meal. Then I have some fun element that gets people laughing. And last time we kind of did two truths and a lie, and then we get into the kind of the nitty gritty. We do. I choose one topic to kind of dive into as a team, and then I open it up for discussion so people can kind of share their heart in that topic. And then it's not me saying everything; it's the team kind of speaking into that. So those are the two frameworks that has really helped me in this whole Exceptional Every Sunday coaching experience is my audition process, and then how I plan for like team gatherings. And those were pretty strategic too, because I had a small team. I want to grow my team. And then also my team was not showing up when I wanted them to for things outside of the weekend rehearsal or even just on Sundays. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And that's great. Because one of the things I want to ask here is because people will be wondering, like, how often do you do these team gatherings?
Yeah, so we started small. I thought about doing it once a month, but I decided to just do it once a quarter. And so we had one in February, and we're going to do another one in May. And we're just kind of planning every 3 months and doing it on a Sunday after church, and we provide lunch. And so that we just have decided that's kind of the day that works for everyone. I would love for it to be during the middle of the week, just for my own sake, because I'm exhausted after Sunday, but it's just the way it needs to be for now. And it might work different for every team, but that's what works for us. So, yeah.
Well, we'll get your other worship leaders developed up, so then you can make them lead on those.
Yes.
Can be nice and fresh going in there. But absolutely. I just want to mention a few things in there, that some principles of what you're doing. One, you're planning something when people are already there, because people are already, they're busy. Like you said, I'd love to do in the middle of the week, but reality is they're not going to come in. Two, you've got food, and, which is always good, but it's right. Part of that natural rhythm. It, lets people just be, there's a reason why, the Lord's Supper happens around food and happened around a dinner table. And
that's right. Yeah.
And then just the other piece is that you're doing it regularly, but not so much to where, hey, these are special events. And I think, like you said, if it was monthly, it might be too much. So that's great.
That's right.
Cool. So, I would love to dig into just one little piece here of, I know we've talked about before that your church is very focused on discipleship, and that's a huge something you guys want to work really intentionally on. I mean, it should be kind of a given that every church is about discipleship, but you know what I mean? Like, you guys have taken that intentionally, and you've mentioned that in the context of worship. So what are some of the things that you're doing to build in discipleship into the worship ministry? Yeah.
That's a good question. This is something we've kind of recently done. We've kind of had to find a time. I've wanted to start small with all these new processes, because I don't know if they're going to work with our team, and I don't know how long my team will either like them or not. So I'm starting small with this one as well. And so we do 15 minutes before rehearsal, and we do a team devo, and it's really short. But I make it optional to my team, because I'm already asking them to come right after work for rehearsal. And so there's no guilt and shame involved. If people walk in and join kind of midway through or even towards the end, we just kind of welcome them in, and it's really not a big deal. But we just go through this book. It's actually called Worshiping Through John, and it's a devotional for worship teams. And surprisingly enough, like we're actually already going through John as a church on our weekly like sermon based series. Oh, nice. And we're just going really slow through John, and it actually is like right in line with it. So it worked. It couldn't have worked any better, because we're talking about it in the context of our worship team and how we can bring that passage into the way we worship or our heart. There's just so many elements of that. And then we hear it in a different lens on Sunday for just the everyday person and how we can apply it to our lives. And so we're really saturating in one passage for each week. And so I haven't viewed our worship team as a small group, because we can't accomplish what a small group needs to accomplish in 15 minutes. But my hope is that maybe we can continue that conversation through John into the weekend. And also that one thing I just really want to cultivate over long-term is I'd love for everybody that's a part of the team for more than 2 years to have a posture of worship that is surrendering to God. And it's not just on Sunday. It's something that they instinctively know that they are there to glorify God. It's for no other reason than that. And so there's always personalities on worship teams, and I've had team members come in with this high head and want to kind of show off on Sundays with something they've worked on for a couple hours. Maybe it's electric or drums. And my hope is that we take our motives and we wash them clean of all impurities, and we come to God with a pure motive of worship. And that's what I hope to gain through doing these team devos, is that we just, over time, we've had a couple conversations around this, and we just start centering our hearts around Jesus. So,
Yeah. I like what you said about centering there. I mean, that word can be used in some new age things. And
that's right.
So people may freak out with it, but I love it just for the fact of like, hey, if we're talking about the potter and the clay,
that's right. Yeah.
If to work the clay, it's got to be centered on the wheel.
Yeah.
And, I did a pottery class in high school. I took all the art classes, finally took pottery, and went, I hate this. I can never get it centered on the wheel. But it is that, even just that 15 minutes of saying, hey guys, we're going to meet. Like you said, you're not forcing them, you're not guilting them. And it is that time of centering. That 15 minutes isn't going to make disciples, but it's just little drips into the process and little pieces. And that's awesome. I think that's where a lot of worship leaders get hung up on, is they get this idea that they have to be, the discipler of their team. And that's a lot of pressure to carry when you're, so I just appreciate that you recognize, hey, it takes time. I want them to have that posture of worship, but it's, you said 2 years. And I think that's, we can have this ideal thing. We want everyone walking in, high level worshipers, and reality is it takes a time to develop, and you almost have to develop on the job in a lot of ways, so that's
true.
Good.
Yep.
So,
definitely.
Well, fantastic, man. I could keep talking away at all this stuff here, but just would love to hear, like, what are you working on next? What's your your next push?
Yeah. Well, right now I'm working
the baby.
The baby is coming. I was just about to say, like, it feels like everything in my life is just kind of bunched up till when the baby happens, then I can kind of move forward. So I do have that workshop on the schedule for May, and we'll continue doing those quarterly workshops with our team. And I also this summer is going to be a strategic time where I'm actually going to be able to do some things that I just haven't had the time to do during the busy months of the year, And so one of those is just kind of creating a landing page on our website for what we believe as a worship team, what is worship to us as Northland, and and also have all of our audition processes on there. And so there's some other odds and ends things that I want to do long term. Like we haven't had a worship night in 3 years. And so COVID has not made that easy. And also like I just want it. There's right and wrong times of the years to do busy, like intensive events that require a lot of preparation. And so I have one on the calendar for September, and that's something I'm kind of starting to do some initial planning for. But other than that, like I said, like I'm planning 4 weeks for me to 4 weekends that I might not be there. You know, it's just kind of a flux depending on when the baby comes. So that's big right now. So. Yeah.
And then about 6 months where your head's just kind of in a cloud because you're not sleeping. And,
someday I'll be able to relate. Yeah.
It's that's a lot coming up here for you. Well, hey, Jack, let me do this. I'd love to just see if you have any insight on this. I know, you're probably one of the younger folks in our coaching group, and as you're thinking about your peers, your peer group, that mid 20 somethings, maybe early 30 somethings, what is who would you recommend it to and why in that group?
Yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone that feels like they lack confidence, like I do. That was a big thing that I would recommend this to anyone who might not have had the experience to work under someone. Kind of another big part of my story is like I kind of jumped into this leadership role and didn't have kind of the interim, like the I wasn't working under someone, which you learn a lot when you're underneath another worship leader and you see their systems. And also, like, if you feel at all that your processes could just be a little better, or if you are lacking a community of other worship leaders, maybe, like for me, I don't have a solid community of worship leaders around me to bounce ideas off of. And as much as Facebook might have been designed for that, the Facebook groups don't really do that. And so this has really created a great community. And just John, your leadership and your organization, just by creating Worship Team Coach and all the content you've created for worship leaders specifically, it just makes me feel really supported as a worship leader. And also, if I want to grow in a specific area, there's going to be a video or maybe a workshop coming up that you're teaching maybe about that specific topic. And if not, I can talk to you individually. And so I feel very supported as a worship leader, and it also gives me a lot of areas to grow in. There's some things that I didn't even know that I was falling short of, or that I was just had some limitations in, and was made aware of it just by kind of talking to you about it, because you talk with multiple worship leaders and kind of know what's right and wrong when it comes to the health of a leader, and so that was eye-opening to me. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
well, man, I appreciate you saying all that. It's just fun to see a young leader like you who is saying, hey, I want to be intentional about how I'm leading my team, doing it in a biblical way, doing it in an emotionally healthy way, spiritually healthy way, being willing to say, hey, I might have some blind spots here. We all do. So man, I just really appreciate your heart, and I can't say enough about the community inside of the coaching group. And I don't feel like it's me. I feel like it's you guys who are jumping in, talking with each other, encouraging, and it's just so fun to watch. So I appreciate you being a part of it.
It's been great. Yeah, I'm thankful for the opportunity. It's been a huge blessing, and I've only been in this coaching group in the like exceptional every Sunday coaching experience for really only 5 months, and I've seen it. It's just a different leader in myself, and it's been really helpful. So I'm just incredibly grateful for it. And I know I'll be able to look back someday and just be like, that's when something shifted, is when I joined that, because it really is kind of game changing for the worship ministry field. So yeah, I appreciate you.
Fantastic, Jack, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing your story. And I know it's going to help other leaders. So thanks, man. We'll see ya.
See ya.